In today's episode, highest paying job of my career. I'm in the hospital and the doctor is asking for help. Madness incoming. I am not able to open the file. I still don't know what was wrong with that keyboard. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Highest paying job of my career. A buddy and I were reminiscing and I recalled this story I thought you might enjoy. Probably not unique in the slightest, but satisfying in its own way. Characters and dates have been changed for obvious reasons. Names and flavors have been changed because I'm not sharing with anyone. If you travel the wrong way for about 22 miles from where I used to live, you end up in a mostly irredeemable, one gas station town that sits on a fork in the road. This town has given itself the tagline of Gateway to the Redacted, and is full of about 12 too many souvenir and kid shops. The overloaded SUVs trying to park without lines, or make U-turns on a 2-lane blacktop make it one of the more dangerous stretches of state route and guarantee that just about no one has any reasonable need to stop there. However, if you head behind the abandoned auto shop, in just a few turns through some single-wide scenery you arrive at a ramshackle house-turned-restaurant that can only exist in areas of extreme zoning apathy. There are clear signs of at least 2 additions, yet the building still seems small with only a half-dozen four-tops and 4 bar stools. This establishment serves typical greasy spoon diner food of above-average quality, but the item that keeps a radio cruiser and a small fleet of motorcycles in their parking lot is their taste that can only come without a nutrition label: snosberry pie. On overcast evenings, sunny afternoons, after bad days that need redeeming, on great days that need celebrating, or weekdays ending in Y, I made a habit of making the drive for the questionable entree of my choice and a fresh slice of snosberry pie a la mode. There are very few things I miss about many of the places I have lived, but this pie is definitely one of them. This particular late Sunday morning, there was a hastily written sign taped on the door that warned in bold Sharpie cash only. I was prepared, so I entered undeterred. Dollar greeter, good morning, welcome to Dollar Place. Our card machine is down, so you'll have to pay in cash, is that alright? Me, so your sign says that's fine. The bar or a corner is fine, I'm probably going to overstay my welcome. Dollar greeter, well, it seems you're the first person to read it. Just over here. And I tucked into an oversized chicken fried steak. In between indignant customer complaints, what do you mean you can't take credit? And exasperated apologies, our card machine is down, but there is an ATM at the gas station just down the street. I heard a statement we have all probably heard before with a cringe. Dollar cook, I've unplugged the internet 3 times already, that's not the problem. I initially kept my head down as normal, but the abuse the kind-hearted staff was getting started to nag at me, so I crept out on a limb while ordering my dessert. Me, can I get a slice of snosberry with vanilla ice cream for dessert, please? Also, I don't mean to intrude, but I work in IT, and I'd be happy to take a look at your card reader problem if you want. No pressure, I can pay either way. Dollar server, oh, that would be great. Let me get your order in, and I'll check with Dollar cook. A few minutes later, I was in a room we're all familiar with: boxes of tax receipts, an open electrical box, and a nameless modem and Netlink combo router on a wire shelf. Somehow, nothing in the room is upright. It took 15 seconds to recognize the lack of lights on the router, and trace the plugged-in cable from the device to the unplugged wall wart behind one of those banker boxes. A few minutes later, the lights turn a happy green, and a quick test of the card reader produces agreeable results. I humbly extracted myself before the jumping up and down dollar server got a bit too familiar for my liking, and returned to a warm slice of pie with a scoop of just melted enough ice cream dripping down the edges. I was equally happy to save some fellow support agents from some undeserved hostility and mute the complaining customers for the remainder of my stay, but mostly I was happy about my pie. I paid with cash and tried to slip out unnoticed, but I was stopped at the door by dollar server. She thanked me and handed me 2 slices of snosberry in a box with "thank you" penned in gold ink that was somehow dotted with a heart. It was the best payment I'd received in my career and remains so to this day. The drive to that diner takes about 2,500 additional miles today, round trip, but I still catch myself considering turning north instead of heading home some days. I ate both slices before midnight that day. I regret nothing. I'm in the hospital and the doctor is asking for help. So I was working at an ISP back in the 90s. Once morning, on my way to work, I got a pain in my side that was so bad that I had to pull over to the side of the road. I was out of my car rolling around on the ground due to the pain. The pain let up somewhat, so I drove to the hospital. It was early morning, so there wasn't any patients in emergency, so I was taken directly in. The doctor listened to my description. Then he poked my abdomen and I hit the ceiling in pain. He asked if that hurt and I said F______ing yeah. So he said, you have a gallstone. Then he said that he would get me a shot for the pain. He stayed by my bed as we waited for the shot to arrive. As we waited, he made small talk and he asked what I did for a living. I told him I worked for an ISP taking care of the servers. He then asked if I could look at his printer as it wasn't printing correctly. Madness incoming. LTL, FTP, mobile, English as third language, you know the drill. Not exactly TS, but freelancing in IT. Sorry if it gets long, but I'm cutting short as much as I can. I live in a country where English isn't the first language as well as the client, although they speak another language there. Got contacted as a huge part of their clients speak the language spoken here, and the language spoken, where the client is located, is my second language. They want a mostly automated system where their clients can input data directly, with which they need to work there. All good so long. The product then need to process these into files to import into a software they need to use by local mandation. All good so long. After a long, difficult talk with that software company, I finally, after several wrong ones, get the documentation for the import function. Bad part, the data that can be imported only covers 1/3 of the functions the client needs. The rest is needed to create files to send to official entities. No documentation found for those. After analyzing these files, I get mostly around the structure, but got some questions. Next problem, client contacts today, that he forgot to mention, that the codes for the same thing differ from one entity to another, total of 3 entities. He also sends me the IDs of their clients, but without names or codes. All codes he sends related to the clients are with their names, but without ID. You get where this is going? Finished analyzing without questions the files, but now need to match all the codes and insert them into the DB. 200x2 codes client related and 10k plus x3 entity related. Wish me fun. And deadline is in 2 weeks. I am not able to open the file. A little backstory that I am working at a private BPO IT service desk voice account. The time this story happened, I was a noob in the industry and was not very good at my job. On that account we have an app, not sure if unique to the client, where we can remote into any computer, and if the computer is company provided we have admin access, but if personal or other company computer either view only or very limited access, and at that time I was not familiar with RDP or MSRA. This is a short story about my struggle on a call when I was a noob. The caller was a nice old man using his personal computer for work, and the issue was that the file from our Citrix site was not opening in the Workspace app. It was opening in Internet Explorer and keeps asking to re-download the file over and over again when opened. So I asked if he already installed the app Citrix Receiver. At the time, from the Citrix site, he said yes, but not sure if correct. I asked to check in the system tray if he can see the Citrix logo. There was little, but surprised the app is installed in correct version, but still not opening in Receiver app. I tried for a long time trying to connect to the computer to manually assist in correcting the file association, since for non-technical people is somewhat difficult to follow with just dictated instructions. We tried multiple times for me to remote in using the app and site, but seem either their firewall or their ISP is blocking the app for me to remote in, so I proceeded with blindly troubleshooting and instructed users step by step in correcting the default app and opening the Citrix file. And his computer made it more difficult cause the receiver didn't appear in the list of apps in the small open with window, had to walk him through the manual process of file association by selecting the .exe file from the installation folder. Thankfully, after selecting the correct exe file was no other issue, and we were able to resolve the issue and ticket. I still don't know what was wrong with that keyboard. I worked a summer position for a team of desktop techs at a university a couple years ago. I was there only for a few months and I can recall way more tales than I expected. So I cannot imagine the amount of stories some of you may have. Anyways, off to the story. I am sitting in my workspace deep in the underground layer and notice a ticket in my queue for a broken keyboard. Dr. Joe, not real name, is stating that certain keys are not responding and not clicking right. At the time, we have been deploying new machines that came with a different keyboard than the norm. Essentially, the standard keyboard at this university was changing and desktop did not have extras of the new keyboard. I was informed by the team to not provide older model keyboards to users with newer machines. Fair enough, I get the reasoning behind it. So, I decide to drag myself over to Joe's office to take a look and possibly troubleshoot his keyboard. First step I did was open a new Word document and just test the keyboard out by typing random sentences coming to my mind. Keyboard worked fine. But Joe refused to accept this. No way, it was not working with me at all, he said. So I told him, let me do some more troubleshooting, then proceeded to restart the device and replug the keyboard to another USB port. Once the machine was back up and running, I opened a Word document and went off typing random sentences yet again. Well, look at that, keyboard is still working perfectly fine. I tell Joe something along the lines of, you may have just been experiencing a one-off kind of issue, your keyboard seems okay to me. He somehow still refused that the keyboard was fine and asked me to type what he says. I proceed to type and I sat there for a good minute or two of dictation till he finally decides to take the hot seat himself. Joe types a few words himself and is now convinced the keyboard is fine, but still seems iffy about it. Me being as customer service oriented as possible, I tell Joe that I will check with the team if there is anything else that can be done. I ask a member of the team and they tell me to fix my headache by just giving Joe an older model keyboard from the stack we have in the back of the office. I sigh, take the keyboard, head over to Joe and give him a new keyboard. Joe is happy, I am happy, I am finally done with this ticket and I guess everybody wins?